I'm the author of my book here called Serve the Silent. You can pick it up on Amazon. I invite you to follow me on YouTube and to Facebook and Instagram, my school community, whatever you feel. Here on my YouTube, I'm fighting the wind, as you can probably tell. So I'm gonna sit down and kind of hold this book. I'm out here by the water, as normal, to give you, today's. Well, I haven't been on here in a couple of weeks now. It's been 2 weeks. This is my last video, so I'm on here to give you the upload, the thing of the day today. So hopefully you can see this live and chime in. So today is about knowing your family lineage. Like, it's important for you to know your family lineage. And the reason I say this is that if you know your lineage, then you can know yourself. Know your lineage, know thyself. I'm going to try to keep this between 6 and 12 minutes. Get ready to my 12 minutes a couple weeks ago. And let me first, I always start out with Bible. So this was given to me. I've been contemplating for the last 2 weeks of what my next one would be about, what my next video would be about. And I don't move unless God tells me to move. So I've been contemplating on what the next one was about, and now I'm finally ready to reveal it. So know your lineage, know thyself. So I've been struggling because I was thinking about Black History Month. I was thinking about Women's History Month. I was thinking about economics and money, and how money is getting, how you have to really be careful with your monies, and how there's all this scamming going on, all these different things. And I finally landed on, I was thinking about knowing your worth, and I just finally landed on know your lineage equals in knowing yourself. And I'm not saying you're 100% all you are is who you came from, but I'm saying that genetically and also environmentally, that is a major factor in shaping it, who you are, and where you came from, and where you are right now, and where you could potentially go in the future. So when I say that, I'm saying that to just, you have to accept that. That's the first thing you have to accept. If you don't accept that, then you're going to continue to kind of go in circles. So know your lineage equal knowing thyself. And then you can go forward and go forward now. So I'm over here in Vallejo at the Mare Island waterfront, checking out the water. This is one of my places I like to go to and look at the water and relax before it gets too dark and everything. And I'm going to start out with Bible. So I was worrying about Bible. I was like, what Bible verse supports what I'm saying? And I was in Kaiser today. We spent the whole day in Kaiser for appointments and stuff. And I'm hurting a little bit, but I'm okay. And hey there, everybody. And so now I wanted to say this. So a gentleman came up to me and said, "Here you go. You want a Bible verse?" I said, "Yeah." And then I traded off with him, and I gave him one of my postcards from my book, which has the free Bible verses and everything in there. So it's in Titus 3, chapter 3, verse 5 and 6. But I want you to read Titus chapter 3, verses 5 through 7, because it left out the part on here. They left out the part about the grace that God gives you. I think that's very important to remember, that God gives us grace. And no matter who you are, where you are right now, where you've been or where you're going, you got to remember that God gives you grace and mercy. So, don't take advantage of it, but try to, understand that has helped you and your lineage and your family, where you are now and where you came from and where you're going. So in Titus 3, verse 5, 6, it says, "Not by works of righteousness which we have done, but according to his mercy, he saved us through the washing of regeneration and renewing of the Holy Spirit, whom he poured out on us abundantly through Jesus Christ, our Savior." So, and then continue to read on, because it also talks about grace and mercy. So, the renewing of our spirit, renewing of ourselves, if we could stay connected to Jesus, And so, when some of the notes, I'll just tell you, this is how I want to say it. It factors into what I'm saying right now. These are my notes that I wrote initially from Black History Month. Excuse me, because I'm fighting the wind out here. That's why my hair is all over the place. So I was thinking about like how this Black History Month that just passed was kind of problematic, and a lot of anti-blackness and everything. And then I'm talking about Women's History Month. We're seeing this too. So just in general, my last video, if you watched it, was about being good in dark times, and the same thing. So if you think about the past and think about your story and where your family came from. So I'm American, and if you a Black American, and I have in most Black Americans, you have a multiracial, identity in the past. You know what I mean? And so, but it's a story of strength and resilience and survival and going forward and forgiveness and God's grace and mercy. It's all those type of things. You know what I mean? So I was writing. These are my notes that I wrote down. When I think back and I think about like I know in terms of like we all know about. Well, if you don't know about it, look up Negro History Week. That's how the whole Black History Month started by Carter G. Woodson, and then from that came Negro History Month, and then from that came Black History Month, and even the evolution of the terms have changed. So when I think back to my own family, like when I was born, it says Black. And then my brother, who's older than me, when he was born, it says colored. From before that, there's some people. No, actually, his said Negroid. There was Negroid was one, and my parents, when they were born, it said Negro. You know, and so just the evolution of racial identity, and in how it fits within American society. So the foundation of America. You have to understand that America was created on the backs of 400 years of free labor, and then of African Americans, and I mean Black Americans, I mean foundational Black Americans, and then you had everybody else, so you had Black Americans, you had the European white Americans, and then you have Native Americans, and some Native Americans, it switched racial identity to Caucasian, some switched to Black identity. So there's all these things. So we're a mixture of all three things. So I always say to people, the reason why you look at humanity is we're all one, right? Is because like if you've been here, for example, in America, like my family for generations, I can go all the way far back is let's see, my great I think it's my 3 times great grandmother. So not my great grandmother. Let's see, it's my grandmother's grandmother. So was that my 3-time grandmother or 4-time grandmother? She was separated from her mother. Her mother was sold off to another slave plantation when she was my great great grandmother was Mama Sally when she was 8 years old. So she watched her mom get sold off and taken in the back of a pickup truck, and get taken away to another plantation. So she was only 8 or 10 years old. 8 years old. I was 8 or 10 years old because it was disputed, but my grandma said no, she was 8 years old. So and my mom knew her, my grandmother knew her, so it's not somebody that's some lost whoever a long time ago. You know what I mean? Like they were raised, like my mom grew up. This is in Louisiana, with them. And then I think about the knowing your lineage, right? And then going forward. I'm already at 9 minutes. So I'm going to try to get to the point. When you know your lineage and you know where you come from, right? It's not necessarily be ashamed of it or embarrassed of it or anything, but it's about just knowing where your folks come from. And it's not just Black people. It can be white people. It can be, Latinos. I don't care who you are or what racial identity you identify with. It's just about knowing your family history. It's important to know your ethnic identity because that's part of the story, right? But then, like when I look at my family, we talking about the family reunion we're having this summer, and I've been thinking about like what's the theme, right? So we're at least 8 generations strong, right, at this point to here in America, but longer than that probably. I can just because of the Black identity, we were cataloged by number, right? So my background is like most Black Americans is passed down through oral history, right? And the reason I look the color I look is because of the mixed lineage in the past. I have a French last name that that's locked into the whole how then the French ruled, Louisiana and all that kind of stuff. My great grandfather was white passing, or white presenting rather. So he used that privilege in order to save his black descendants. He was with my great grandmother, right? But illegally. It was illegal to have an interracial marriage. So they couldn't be married, but they were together. But eventually they had to go different separate ways because of just everything. But he didn't shy away from his white identity in the sense of dismissing his black descendants. He embraced it, and he used that as a power to protect my family. So where a lot of other black families in this is in Mississippi were getting terrorized with crosses on their properties and stuff, they didn't mess with our family because of him. And then I just found out a few years, was it 5 years or so, that he actually wasn't white. He was actually mulatto. So that showed me that he was white presenting. So he was white presenting, not white passing. White passing is you just dismiss your blackness altogether. He was white presenting, so he used it for favor. My dad talks about how when he was a child, and when he would go into businesses with his grandfather, this is my great grandfather, when he'd go in with him, then they would let them go through the front door. But when he went with his dad, which is this, the descendant my grandfather, right? My grandfather. When my dad would go in with his father, which is my grandfather, then he had to go to the back of the building because he's black. So that's why I look. That's why I look the way I look, because of that mixture in my bloodline, and I also have Native American as well. So the point of all saying this is not to just talk about like the good or bad things that happen. It's about the strength and resilience. And I was thinking about, what do we call this reunion that we're going to have? And what's the theme? And I keep thinking about faith, strength, and resilience. So despite the Jim Crow, the segregation, the racial terror, all the different things that happened, we still were able to, thankfully, by the grace of God, we kept faith in God first, and we had strength, and we were able to get past all of that with the collective vision. So with collective village. So I want to dismiss that whole notion of a self-made man. That doesn't exist. You have to have a village. I don't care who you are. You have to have community in order to make it. So my great grandfather, like I was telling you, this is on my paternal side, my great grandfather using his privilege, right, to protect the family, to own lands and everything, to have some wealth, right, economic wealth. And then the faith that we had. And then my dad joined the military, so he's a Vietnam veteran. And then that transformed economically the family, where he could help provide for his 12 brothers and sisters, right? The siblings in their household. And that allowed the other younger brothers and sisters, they would go to college and do other things, and they were taken care of, and their books and clothing and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I could go in more specifics, but, I would just say my dad, it was so racist where my dad was, they had to dig the books out the ground from the white schools rather than them giving them the old books. That's how racist the institution that he was dealing with. And then you look at me being the first one in our generation to get, a college degree in my family, right? I'm sure I got some uncles, that did before me, but I'm talking about in my direct lineage between my grandparents, my great grandparents, then my parents, then me. I'm the first one. Me and my brother disputed about which one's first, but college, and then I got master's degrees as well, right? So all that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have been able to, and I don't even I never grew up, I'm first generation Californian. So I wouldn't even be here had not all the sacrifices of the ancestors, the great grandfather, the grandfather, and the women too, but I'm just speaking on them because I was talking about this particular storyline. The great, I think it is, grandmother on my maternal side, and then that's when my mom and dad met out here. So she came out here too, same reason. My grandfather on my maternal side joined the military and was very right here where I'm sitting right here. He was working right here. This is a decommissioned naval base. So looking behind me because there's some people behind me fishing or whatever. So all that to say is that if you know your lineage, then you can know yourself. You know yourself. So I know I've always carried that with me since I was a little girl, of all the sacrifices that the ancestors in the past, made, right? Sacrificed so that I could make it, so that their kids, grandkids, and great grandkids, and now great grandkids could make it, right? And then if I look at my nephews and nieces and all that, then they're even more privileged than I was, right? You following? So my call to action for you all, because I'm getting long-winded and I didn't want to go this long, is that think about your life and think about everything you've personally, endured and overcame. Think about what your parents, went through and overcame, your grandparents and your great-grandparents. But if you don't know, my call to action for you, I'm sorry, I'm fighting the wind, is do you really know your family lineage history? Ask your elders. Learn, appreciate, embrace, and then correct what you need to in yourself and in this generation so they can go forward to walk in accordance with God's purpose. So that's my call to action for you. And if you do that, that will give you some insight on yourself and understanding. I know about myself and why I do certain things, because when my grandmother telling me stories and my parents telling me stories about my grandmother's sisters, and I have some of their ways, I have some of my mom's ways, I have some of my I'm a combination of everybody. But I see it when I do certain things, and even now when I get older, I see certain things that's just like my dad, and so some of it is genetics and some of it is nature and nurture, the whole nature nurture theory, and I excuse me, and I don't know about you, but I also believe in there's something you carry with you genetically that keeps you going forward on how to overcome different situations. So when I look back at the stories I heard or what I hear, and even people that aren't related to me, when I hear about certain stories of, Black history or Native history or just American history, whatever, I'm like, oh yeah, or just a time period of how people moved. I'm like, okay, that's why grandma, grandpa did this, or why so-and-so did this. And that's why, sometimes things you do, it's just something that's been passed on from person to person. It's not necessarily anything, it's not that deep. So I hope I uplifted and encouraged you today. Know your lineage, know your family lineage, and know thyself. Titus chapter 3, verses 5 through 7 is what I want you to read to be uplifted. I'll try to put it in the comments. Serve the silent, okay? Pick up my book on Amazon. You get my 3 free coloring sheets on my group or my Instagram or on here. I'll try to put the link on here. I think I have it on here, but I'll try to put it in here in the comments. And, do you know your family history? Put it in the comments. Say yes or no. So that's my call to action. You know your family lineage, and talk to the elders if you need to. You should before they pass. My grandmother lived to 91, so I got a lot of information. My grandpa lived to 82. I got a lot of information from him. My parents are, elders. So love you, and learn your family lineage before it's too late, because that's going to give you insight on yourself of how your family came to this point where you are right now, and talk to God about how you can move forward and walk in your purpose. It's not that deep. It's not that deep, y'all. Just, know your history, stay connected to God, and be blessed. Stay prayed up, stay spiritually renewed. All right. Love you guys. Have a good one.